right. We have a guest gonger in the house. We got Sam. You should gong it. All right, here we go. Anytime. And you may be wondering why Sam is our guest gonger. So one of the things that we do here is, of course, recognize our mission, vision, values. And one of the things that we like to do is build businesses worth owning. And for some of us as entrepreneurs, that starts a little younger than the average age in the room. How old are you, Sam? It starts at 10. So she's going to share a little bit about her entrepreneurial journey. Well, Dad, get set here. Sam, what floor is yours, sister?
Hi.
Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Come on, we'll walk together. Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm selling Girl Scout cookies right now, and my goal is 1,250. I've been the top seller in my school, my grade level every single year since kindergarten when we started.
All right.
See the spreadsheet?
So this year,
Tell them you're here to talk about your business plan. It's on the screen if you want to read it.
I'm here to talk about my business plan. It's on the screen. I need 750 from Sphere. I think 200 from Door Knock, 50 from social media, and 250 from Booth. So.
Doing good.
You're doing great.
Doing great. Great, Sam.
I have 610 from Sphere, 220 from Door Knock, 38 from social media, and 0 from Booth since Booth season just started.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel with FISBOs, I get you.
Give her objection.
Let's not give her an objection.
Objection handling.
I've been practicing my scripts and making 8 phone calls a day.
And now about this last one.
I'm gonna present my business plan at a KW office meeting.
All right.
You guys can order after the meeting downstairs. I'll be here still. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
If you cannot rattle off your numbers the way that impressive young lady could rattle off her numbers, leave this meeting right now and go down and work on your business plan, because that is impressive. That's somebody who's gonna meet her goals, and it's somebody that we can all take note of. So thank you for bringing your daughter in, and Sam, thank you for presenting for us. Super exciting. Awesome job. And you guys, just so you know, I did look up the Girl Scouts. It's the #1 entrepreneurial organization for young women in the country, and it was designed to help young women become entrepreneurs. And we know in this field of real estate, there are a lot of women in it, and a lot of women got their start in Girl Scout cookies. So whether you like the cookies or not, eat the cookies, get the cookies, and support the young women who do this. All right, so that was our mission, vision, values moment. Entrepreneurs thrive and they start young. Love it. All right. We also have somebody who is, we're celebrating our first closing. So Val Otto, I don't know, she joined us a hot second ago. She's already got her closing in place. And now we're gonna bring up Charlie Stale, who's gonna start doing his part 2. If you'll remember last week, he started diving into all of the deets on family reunion. And we're happy to have you back. Thanks for coming.
Sweet. So anybody like reading trade fodder?
Yeah.
Every day. All day.
Yeah.
So Mark King stepped down sometime, I don't know when, but it just came out yesterday. Here's what I tell you about it. I found out about this about 6 to 8 weeks ago. I wasn't overly surprised. If you think about what he's dealt with in the last 5 years, he dealt with COVID, he dealt with social unrest, dealt with, quite frankly, a very divided political environment, struggling US housing economy. And it's a meat grinder of a role. And, oh, yeah, like maybe the biggest class action lawsuit since the tobacco industry. And having been a little bit involved in lawsuits, a little bit for the last 8 years, I was in nothing compared to facing a $5.4 billion class action lawsuit. Him deciding to step down to choose to do other things in the KW system, to me, quite frankly, is not overly surprising. Like, there is a shelf life within how much you're willing to put up with as a person. To be honest with you, I think incredibly fondly of Mark. I think Mark is an incredible human. I think he did a ton for our business. And at the same time, here's what I know. In my short time at KW, this is just going back to 2017, and the red line is the market share in southeastern Wisconsin. We've had Mark Willis, we've had John Davis, we've had Josh Team, we've had Gary Keller, we had Carl Liebert, we had Gary Keller, we had Mark King, and now we have Mark Willis. And there was one thing that stayed consistent.
Yeah.
Right? And what I know about that is our job in local leadership is to provide you consistency in the service of what you ask for from us in the partnership with KW. Part of that consistency is also knowing when to filter information from what goes on in the national noise and what we try and filter away from you, of like not getting you distracted from ultimately what is most important to us, which is the southeastern Wisconsin area. You know, and I would say change is inevitable. Participation is optional. And you know what? Like, I tip my hat to Mark King. I thought he said some incredible stuff. I have a ton of respect for the guy. And I don't think that, I think him alleviating himself from the pressure cooker of the role of being the president will actually allow him to open up to do other things that will actually create a bigger impact for him, that doesn't draw him into the stuff that, quite frankly, wears you down. So I just wanted to be upfront and honest of when you see things, or, you know, people always like to leverage this from a narrative standpoint, that it doesn't change our focus on what we're doing in southeastern Wisconsin and how you serve, and we just say onward and we'll keep going, right? So any questions on that from this group particularly, or Scott, any commentary within your role?
I think you did a great job summarizing that. One thing I'll say that was very interesting, Mark was basically my direct boss with this new role. And when I took over, we had a meeting in Austin, and he was leading this meeting for all the owners of the company nationwide. And meanwhile, he had a binder of talking points. He was gonna get on a plane and go on a lawsuit, or go to a court case to defend Keller Williams. And he had to show up as a leader with that in the back of his mind. And he said something very interesting to me. He said, with everything going on in the Middle East, Keller Williams has taken a lot of slack, because there is really not a right answer. You know, you could say one thing and you offend people, and you say another thing, you offend other people. He said, I never thought leadership would have me learning Middle Eastern history, you know, with the majority of my time. And so he has all of this slack coming at him from that war standpoint, from the lawsuit standpoint. And then he had to crush it as a leader on stage. And I was like, man, I would not want your job. That's all I thought. And it was just that high level leader. And now he's able to go around and teach. He teaches the team leaders. He's gifted as a speaker, as a person, and probably the most caring leader I've ever met. So I think it's a really good transition for him, and I think you summed it up very well.
Yeah, and I actually knew about this like in December, January. I just was surprised at how much attention it got yesterday. So I was like, oh, all right, I guess it's public.
Well, also, he's not stepping out of KW. He's gonna be spending time really pouring into people who have my role, Scott's role, and Charlie's role. So, and I always loved how he presented. He taught me a ton, so I'm very excited to look more time to do that.
So that was my question, because he has such a long tenure with KW.
Yeah.
He's staying with KW?
He's staying and kind of in his best fit ever.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. I love Mark.
If I were to read the tea leaves, I bet he takes a sabbatical for a bit,
Mm,
spends some time with his family. And then where I knew his role was changing was he's gonna be one with tasking, leading local leadership teams, like pouring into team leaders, and then running a class called Franchise Systems Orientation, which teaches franchisees and leadership teams how to run an effective market center and how do you deliver value to agents and that creates retention and attraction. And as of last week, I had lunch with Mark, or 2 weeks ago, I had lunch with Mark in Vegas. And he was asking me about our tea time at Whistling Straits, so like, he's still coming to Milwaukee in May. Oh, I don't know if that's like.
Nobody
breaking
knows that,
news. Oh,
Charlie, just
sorry.
you and me.
Mark's coming to Milwaukee in May, so like, as of.
Breaking announcement.
Yeah. See, when you show up to team meeting, you find things out. So, yeah, he's coming to Milwaukee in May still as of 2 weeks ago, but he's traveling right now. So as I know more, I'll tell you more, and I just want to be forthright so that you aren't getting him. It always sucks to get information through Inman.
Yeah,
His role will be like director of experience, is what they're thinking of calling it. And Mark King started as an agent, he became a team leader, he became a regional director, he became an operating principal, then a regional director, and he just crushed everything he did. So it is a true story of like, show up in your role, and the opportunities are endless. He became president of our company.
Yeah, school guy. So, good.
yes.
Stay tuned for, I guess, breaking news on an event coming in
Or
May.
plan to come to team meeting every Tuesday at noon.
A couple other things from an office operational standpoint, just a heads up, guys, if you haven't noticed, people are scamming real estate agents by copying your Facebook profiles and then they're selling Pelotons for really cheap. And then your friends are buying the Pelotons at like $100, $200 because a $200 Peloton is really cheap. And they're sending you what they believe to be you the money via PayPal. It's happened to 4 agents in our ecosystem. Just want to make you aware that this is happening and that if you need money from someone, just reach out to them directly. Don't put it on Facebook and don't ask through PayPal and cool.
And Maureen doesn't need gift cards, ever.
None of us ever need gift cards.
I mean,
I am selling some Marvel Legends Transformers.
I do.
All right, one other thing of market news. To be honest, this caught me off guard last week. I wasn't prepared for this announcement. Align Showings is here to stay and showing time is gonna sunset on April 5th. I know because we have been pressing the MLS that enhanced features in order to create a comparable product between the two. I wasn't aware until last week Thursday when the MLS sent out that April 5th was the deadline date. So in that regard, next week, Tuesday at the noon meeting, we have the Metro MLS zooming into this meeting to have more of a dialogue to give us an insight as to where the platform is at and where the platform is going between now and April 5th. Because I knew by creating this announcement, I didn't have the answers to it. And so I went directly to the source and asked them to participate with our group next week, Tuesday. So gather your questions and I'll help facilitate the conversation with Jared and MLS on that dialogue. Cool?
Cool.
Sweet. Training and education.
We're gonna dive in a little bit here. First of all, if you didn't have the chance to come yesterday, we had an Opportunity Knocks event. Our team's knocking it out of the park, you guys. We're, models and systems make the difference, and we have some of the best teams in the ecosystem. And yesterday was a great opportunity to talk to people who wanted to be on teams. So thank you all for showing up. You guys did a great job. I've heard it was an amazing experience on the team side. Also, because our teams do such a good job, people are looking at our direction in terms of growth and opportunity. And one of those teams is right back in the corner back there. I saw Jay and Janine just nudge each other. They were at Opportunity Knocks. Obviously, Jay is the owner of JSG Group. Janine works with them. They are looking for somebody special that was not at Opportunity Knocks. You guys want to give a little quick plug about different opportunities in growing and your team?
Couple different, we're hiring an assistant agent partner, which is transaction coordinator, listing coordinator, but it's basically how we build our team. Our support staff works directly with the agent, so one-on-one. So if you know someone licensed is preferred, not in selling. But we are also looking to grow. We penetrate very high in a very small geographic area. So if you look at where we specialize, take that 10% penetration across the 5-county metro MLS, our team could be 2.2 billion. So why not? So we're looking for talent. And our favorite line is we don't teach hustle. Bring your hustle, we'll teach you the skills. So.
And one of the things I love about JSG is that when I sit down to talk with them, they say, well, why aren't we the entire MLS, right, you guys? So the more signs out here, the more all of our tides rise. So if you guys see these two in the back, they're also extremely generous about how they run things. They've asked about how we run things, so share your best tips and tricks, and I'm sure that they will do the same. And together, they'll achieve more, right? Team, it's all good. So super exciting.
Yeah, I think last thing I've worked with Jay and Janine for 8 years. Incredible people, incredible members of the KW community. And as they've expanded outside their core niche, they've recognized that they have something to pour into people, to take what they do in a small geographical area and say, all right, if we can do this here, why can't we do this there? And where they've had a lot of growth patterns, and we've looked at this because we've tracked these zip codes and what their market penetration is. They've seen a lot of growth this way, and as Deej has come into this market and knowing how Deej runs a KW Market Center, it's also a testament to Deej and that these guys want to find talent that wants to partner with Deej. And the reason why we use them as an example is they're great in our community. They pour back and give back to others. And part of our ecosystem is how do we help build a business that isn't even what's on your radar. And they're shining examples of like, before anybody hit 200 million, like there wasn't anybody who hit 200 million in Wisconsin until they did it. And now they're trying to think even bigger. And I think when that happens, it's a shining example for the rest of the group to say like, fuck, if they, or shoot, sorry. If they can do that, why can't I hit 10? Or why can't I hit 15, right? So there's a synergy to the energy. So I apologize for the candid.
Keep it real, Charlie,
So-
keep it real.
Anything else?
All good?
Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for
sweet.
being here. All right, March calendar is super, super full. We're halfway through. We're gonna highlight a few things for you. Next slide. You'll have access to that. One of the things that we're gonna be talking about, Charlie's gonna be presenting some of the key factors that are driving buyers right now. And obviously the lawsuit has raised kind of how we present our value. Tomorrow, Maureen and some guests are gonna be diving in a little bit about how they do that particularly. I'd invite you all to log into this. They are some of the folks who have kind of thought about this a lot and are very good at articulating and have some good insights for you. So this will be tomorrow on Zoom.
And to be honest with you, it's thinking through when people raise the question of compensation, how are you articulating what it means and how what's actually happening in the space? We talked about this, PC, that's your new nickname, by the way. PC and I talked about this last week, Tuesday, when he was kind of challenging. We were going back and forth, a little ping pong style about this. And so we wanted to put together a group of like, hey, Catherine, you work with a lot of first-time home buyers. How are you articulating this? Bruce, you work in an extreme high-end luxury. How are you articulating this to clients that are well-versed in what's going on? Paul, how are you articulating this? And trying to get you guys a cross-section of reference of how people are articulating the idea and concept of compensation. Along that then, we'll get to that next. Scott, anything from a budget mastermind is coming up this week? Thursday
Yep,
via Zoom?
yep. I will say the first half hour, we're going to dive into the foundations, like what it is, what's a chart account, what's the P&L, what's the budget model. So just hop on, you can be as passive as you want, and it's actually gonna go till 2:30. 1:30 to 2:30, we're gonna dive into actual businesses and teams' budget models and their February numbers. So this is the topic that is probably the most important going into a year where money is is gonna be as tight as ever. The last month, we had 110 people on it.
Wow.
So it's gonna be, it's not a sexy conversation. I'd rather watch paint dry. But I try to make it as exciting as possible, and it's really, really necessary. So please hop on. You can have it's on Zoom. You can exit out your screen, just have your name. I won't call on you if you don't wanna be called on. It's not mandatory, but just come in and learn and dedicate to this. So it's still February. It's very easy to do 2 months of tracking versus it's September and you gotta do 8 months to catch up.
And special guest Sam, I'm just wondering.
No Sam on this one.
Alright.
By the way, Sam, right, 5th grade, going for first place. First place prize is Sam. Three D printer.
I wanted to be there that, which is.
All right.
She knows what the reward is.
Nice.
I also won 2 iPads
2 iPads.
in the last couple.
Disney
of
trip
years.
is down the road, Deb? Awesome. And then we continue to dive into building your wealth with the mastermind. The next one is on 3/20. So continue good prayers for Tina and her healing, that she is back for that conversation next week. So.
Lastly, just quick raise of hands. Anybody participate last week, Thursday in Value Square? Catherine, what'd you think?
There was a lot of information and I needed a nap afterwards, but thank God they sent out this slides after. So you could really internalize a lot of the conversations that are necessary in this marketplace. I think we have started those conversations, so there was really not a whole lot that was new. It just was, rediscussing and some different things, of course, but, some different perspectives. But it was, we gotta get on this. Yeah, so.
Yep. Gina, not to put you on the spot, but you participated in a little bit of this at Vegas. What was your perspective on the conversation that Jay Papazan led?
Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful because I have the whole PowerPoint presentation. We took it to our team meeting on Monday and basically as just on the buyer side, what is your value add? And so as a team, we're adding on to that. Really looking at what we offer as buyer agents and what our role is. And it's amazing how much we do as buyer agents and we forget about it. So going through that process alone was eye-opening and it really did show your work. So excellent, hop on.
And to follow up on Catherine's comments, if she was tired, it meant she was thinking about how she needs to do things differently, right? It's like your web browser that works in the background and all of a sudden your battery is drained.
And if you need the PDF, I will send it to Diana and you can have it because it's a great outline for you guys to look at.
The next one is actually gonna be held on March 26th. So they're doing 4 of these. It's not different information. It's the same, only they're learning every time they give it. They're taking feedback and they're kind of elevating the conversation each time. So on that day, we actually don't have a team meeting. It's spring break. We're giving everybody a breather, but we will be showing it upstairs. So if you choose to come and wanna kind of connect and mastermind with your colleagues, join us and let's dive into the conversation. Make sure you guys are all poised for a great selling season. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, they had it scheduled for 4 hours, and just so you know, it only took 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't as
But
long
Gary
as,
also left early.
yeah,
Yeah, so.
it was only 2.5.
Okay, save the date. Katie Ninkovic, I don't see today. She asked me she wanted to make sure she got her seat. When the registration's open, we'll send it to you, but at the War Memorial, 1 to 4 p.m., April 29th with Jeff. All around his listing presentation. Cool? Sweet. And then last thing, wrapping up March with our serving committee is donation for foster care kids who want and need to go to camp and what we can do to provide those experiences for you. And these are the things that we're collecting down in Southwest: family-friendly bug spray, night lights, notebooks. Whatever it is that you maybe help us to get foster kids to camp this summer, we would be greatly appreciated on those 3 items. Cool.
Our basket downstairs at the front is, a little light right now, so, a little light, so we can change that, I'm sure. Awesome.
All right, you ready? Sweet. I'm gonna give you my consumer insights. I'm gonna skip through this. Here's what you need to know. WRA is playing offense, not defense. We're in a good spot in Wisconsin. We had an update yesterday from the WRA. Because our buyer agency forms are required, all our state contracts are run through REEB and DSPS, which is the Real Estate Examining Board. We're in a very good spot in terms of the legal liability environment that we're in. One other thing that was incredibly appropriate that I do need to bring forward. I've heard and seen it because I got one. Anybody seen or had clients reach out to you about postcards they've gotten in the mail about this? Chris? Okay. You have clients that are getting postcards in the mail. Any consumer who purchased a home since 2019 is getting basically like this crazy postcard with a ton of lines on it that quite frankly, no one's gonna, people are reading it, but not a lot of people are reading it. And you're gonna get questions from consumers that do read it. Couple things to note. Who's receiving it? All consumers. Why are they receiving it? It's part of the legal process of an antitrust class action lawsuit that they have to notify anybody who would fit within the class. Okay? What do I do in terms of an agent if someone reaches out to you? It's educating your consumers as to what's going on within the macro environment. And what's going on within our industry. And it's simply part of the legal process of notifying any sort of class. The hard part to that, which sounds very vague and a little flippant, is because it is an active legal situation that's going through an appeals process, there isn't much more as an industry we can say. Even the WRA yesterday at 1 o'clock basically gave this like very broad statement on it. I'm working with legal counsel. We gotta get an answer from Peter on this, is to give you a bit of a more of a defined definition. We don't have any liability in it. We aren't named anything, but just to give you some more talking points to it. But even when we asked KWRI about it, it was a very, yep, it's part of the process and there isn't much else to say. Questions, comments on that? Yes.
Is there an example? I want to know what it actually looks like.
It's like a postcard that, you know, after a car advertisement, at the like bottom quartile of the screen, there's like all this like little small print legal language. It's a postcard. It was if a postcard is like that. And it's like, hey, consumers in these 30 states associated with these metro MLSs, if you've bought a home in this time frame, there's a part, you're part of a class action lawsuit if you want to claim dollars to it. So
It's only purchased, not sold.
only purchase. Correct. Good on that? All right, here we go. Vision part 2, okay? Here is my insights for you, is in the lens you should be thinking about this or diving into this information or data is what is it that I need to do in terms of how I communicate with my clients differently in order to compete most efficiently in the market of the moment. And the reason why I say that is, as I've spent a lot of time digging through this and looking at my notes and trying to transpose what I think is important for you guys, one of the things I came across as to why I share these notes with you is I think a lot of agents are inefficient in how they communicate, and they do a lot of things or spend a lot of money or spend a lot of resources on things that really, quite frankly, don't help them drive their business. Okay, and so what I'm going to share with you today are consumer insights that hopefully effectively help you think about what do I need to do differently in order to communicate more effectively. Cool? And feel free, as this group is not shy, feel free to ask questions. Cool? All right, so US events, a couple things we'll talk about in terms of the industry. I'll only go through about 4 or 5 of these things. I'm not going to go through all 10 things that we need to be paying attention to because I'm trying to boil some of this down for you. Okay, first, sides per agent. We are entering into, or we have been in, an equal opportunity, unequal reward environment. Okay, A ton of agents will have their best year ever. A ton of agents had their best year ever, despite the fact that the number of units per agent is at its lowest in recorded history of NAR. Okay, historical averages, on average, an agent will do 10 units per deal going back to like the 1930s or 40s, whenever they started recording this data. Okay, well, last year, we were at about 50% capacity as to what the historical average is. Last year, about 5.3 units per agent was completed across the NAR. Now, part of this is agents leaving the business is always slower than the pace in which the business slows down, right? And so thinking about the reason why you feel is it's harder is because there's still a ton of agents in the business grasping after 36% less inventory over the last 2 years in southeastern Wisconsin. Now, volume per agent, where it's a little bit deceiving, is people are still making good incomes. Last year was the 6th best year on a per agent volume metric at just under 3 million on a per agent basis. And to Scott's credit, to what he talked about and what he will be talking about on the 14th, is people are making still decent money because of the run-up of appreciation over the last couple of years. The things that agents are going to get into a little bit of a trap, they need to be paying attention to, knowing that unit activity is down on a per agent basis, is how you manage your expenses. And how you manage your expenses per transaction will ultimately help you determine your net income. Because as we got into this game, last week I talked about agents are drunk with success, but they don't like the hangover. The hangover is everybody made a ton of money. Their expenses also rose with their income levels, but as income levels went down and expenses didn't go down accordingly, you're in a bit of a tough spot. That's a general commentary across the industry. Does that make sense? One thing just to share from a local level perspective, because I always try and look at, all right, the macro picture and how does this impact our Milwaukee environment, is this. This is 2023 results. Okay, and I'm just gonna talk about the yellow box, talking about a culture of productivity. Last year in southeastern Wisconsin, the average KW associate in Milwaukee closed 11 units per agent. That is twice that of the national average. And the average agent in our ecosystem closed 4.25 million. That's up almost 40% more than the national averages. On a local level, in terms of comparing it versus our peers, the average KW associate closed 102% more closed volume on a per average basis, and the average KW associate closed 69% more units. You talk about a culture of productivity and what we're thinking about and why the training calendar seems incredibly heavy in March and why we're digging into, we never historically broadcast speakers in April and May. We're doing it because we're trying to help you sharpen your axe, so that when you're trying to trap down the trees and get your units, that we're helping you stay ahead of the productivity curve. Cool?
Quick question, Charlie.
Yeah.
The averages, do they put any outlier, let's say, new agents who haven't closed any deals whatsoever?
No, we look at the entire continuum of our community, from ironically Jay Schmidt all the way down to someone who hasn't closed the deal. Same thing, NAR does the same thing.
Some include me, who's like technically agents, but all my business is from and gone, I have a 0.
Yeah. It's just looking at all associated licenses. I think the coolest thing, like, yeah, the local statistics are awesome, but the fact that we're twice that of the national average is also a testament to what it is that you guys do. All right, so let's get into it. Distressed sales, basically non-existent, probably not shocking, but it's also important to hear, because how many of you had clients that said, oh my gosh, am I buying at the peak of the market? Am I gonna lose my shorts on this? You know, the nervous Nellies, right? Same thing as it relates to underwater homes. They're basically non-existent. Everybody has equity in their home. The ones that aren't underwater are either outliers to data or people that bought their home within 90 days of when this data pull came out. And so it's just a function of when it showed up. But 1.8% of homes nationally are underwater. Historical average is 6%. So, all right, student loan debt. Number 3, in terms of something you need to think about, and I've talked about this a lot, demographics. The largest demographic in the US labor force is the cohort from 21 to 35. They're also saddled with the most amount of student loan debt in the history of our country. And the dilemma is it doesn't seem to be improving. Why? Because we know the cost of higher education continues to climb. So we have to help people navigate their financial situations in order to get people to understand that you can help them become a buyer, even though they have student debt. Make sense? That 21 to 35 cohort is what will continue to drive demand within our economy moving forward, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then lastly, economic risks that we face, and then we'll go back into buyers and sellers. 10 economic risks we may have to pay attention to in 2024. One is ineffectual governance. What does that mean? When you have split or divided governance and you can't get anything done, that poses a risk for our industry. 2, global conflicts pose a risk for our industry. No one would have predicted Russia was invading Ukraine in February of 22, and then look what happened in 22. Everything else tightened. There are domino effects of all these things that we have to be paying attention to as they happen. Financial system risks stemming from commercial real estate. I've also mentioned this a couple weeks ago. There is an inordinate amount of commercial debt that is maturing in 2024. And it's maturing at rates that are 2 to 3x that of the rates that they were. Because commercial debt matures every 4 to 7 years, depending on your rate. And so because that debt is maturing, it could create havoc in the commercial space in terms of affordability or values. And then lastly, natural disasters and severe weather events. Let me just ask a question. Anybody in here own an investment property or a second home? Okay, what happened to your insurance rates in 23 or 24? If you've had your insurance rate renewals?
Everything's going up.
Yeah, skyrocketing.
Up. Average insurance on a commercial property is up 23%. Okay, average second home insurance, like let's say you have a home down in Florida or somewhere else where there's natural disasters, it's up over 50%. That continued natural disaster and severe weather events is going to cause affordability issues for us. Now, one last thing to put a little wind in your sails. People are moving to southeastern Wisconsin because of this. It's a safe, stable environment that provides consistency. Now, we had inconsistent snow, but it doesn't really impact our real estate values. I know that because I have anecdotal evidence of 4 or 5 people I know personally that moved here from other parts of the country to get into a more stable environment for their families. Something to be thinking about, okay? All right, now I'm gonna give you a profile of buyers and sellers, and this is where you should be thinking about from the lens of what do I need to do differently to communicate more effectively to stay ahead of the market at the moment. First, couple general themes, because I spelled that wrong. Real estate's a contact sport. You've never been a better year to be the economist of choice. More short-term noise than you've ever seen in the last 4 years. We're coming into an election cycle, okay? The dialogue is, let me tell you what it's really like. Talk about the local market in real time and know it with confidence. I'm gonna repeat that. Talk about the local market in real time and know it with confidence, because the power you get when you're done is you will convey knowledge that no one else in the market has. They will view you as a valued resource and asset. So, first-time home buyers, historically, they've been, hovering around 40%. Last year was 32%. Millennials are struggling to access housing. We have to be the resource of education as to how to help them navigate their financial futures. And we talked about student debt, okay? Our industry will rise as we get more of these first-time home buyers into the market. And we need this number to be north of 40, closer to 45% in order for this thing to be humming again, okay? So, if you really think about it in the future, some people are like, I don't work with the first-time home buyers. Well, 45% of the transactions, I think in the next 3 years will be first-time home buyers. You're gonna wanna think about how you communicate your value to that group. Next, primary reason for purchasing a home. Couple things to point out here. Desire to own a home has stayed relatively constant over the last 15 years, okay? Last year was at 26%, up from 22% in 2022. Something else to pay attention to, and this is what you should be thinking about, is how you segment your database, okay? Moving closer to friends and family, that number has almost doubled in 5 years. And that was because of the advent of what happened in 2020, the ability for people to work remotely in the continuation of the evolving of technology. People are waking up now and saying, what am I doing in Athens, Georgia? I need to move home. And so if you think about your database and how you diversify your database, you should also be thinking about who is in my database that has people that live in other areas, and how am I communicating with them so that they think of me as Mark Smith when they want to move back to Milwaukee and be closer to my parents or closer to relatives, cousins. It's happening. And the world now is allowing for that to happen. And so the way you can diversify your databases is how you segment as to who you know in other markets that you can communicate as to what's going on in Milwaukee. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I think sometimes people think only about their little bubble. And I think you could really build a nice business if you think broader than just in your bubble. Next, buyers expected. Sorry, can't move this. Expected tenure, okay? People underestimate the short term, overestimate the long term. Life events happen. Here's what I'm telling you. Again, on the expected tenure, on average, people expect to stay in their home 15 years. And we know that the tenure in their previous home is significantly less than that. On average, it's about 7 to 10 years. The question I have for you as it relates to your databases is, are you tracking the home anniversaries of your clients to identify as people are starting to mature, they don't become orphan clients, and that you should be identifying as people are getting closer to decision based on how long they've been in their home because you sold it to them 7 years earlier, how you're communicating with them differently. You need to be thinking about your databases in this way if you want to segment it appropriately based on tenure within the home. Weeks in the home search, still taking about 10 weeks for buyers, despite the torrid pace in which the market has been working. And the first step in the home buying process, now starting to think about what am I doing and how am I doing it? First of all, looking at properties online and looked online for information in the buying process was only 50% of where people started. It's not 100%. Okay, most people would assume that it would be 100%. Contacting a real estate agent is 20%. 20% of the time. 1 in every 5 consumers contacts a real estate agent before they do anything. Okay. The other thing that has happened since in the last 2 years in particular is open houses have come back and improved. And I would challenge you with how you think about what you're doing to provide a sensory experience. Okay, sensory from the standpoint of how do we help our clients see, feel, touch, smell, taste what it is that we do and how we do it. Okay, and the commentary here is stay in contact, do videos, have website, hold open houses. Stay in contact, do videos, have a website, hold open houses. Now, value of website features. You want to talk about where I see people waste an inordinate amount of resources of their time, money, and energy is their website. What you should be thinking about is how you get them property information, photos, floor plans, neighborhood information, virtual tours. How do they contact you? What is the pending contract status within their neighborhood? How are you communicating a story about where it is that you operate? All of this is useful. All of this is wasteful. And yet all of this that's waste, guess what, is a lot of money. And so don't overthink your website. Make your website a place of education and how you communicate education about where it is that you work and how you operate. You will find that you will attract people to yourselves, okay? So, well, I gotta move this because I have good commentary up here. People are looking for information in how to track their local market. Are you telling a story? Provide useful information online. I would be looking at this from the lens of what does my website look like and what do I need to remove in order to simplify how I show up in my web presence. Next, method of a home purchase. Here's really good news for you guys, okay? Agent or broker, 89% of all buyer side transactions last year were represented by an agent or broker. That was up over the last several years. Okay, that's positive news for the way people value our profession. Now, buyer representation agreements, something to pay attention to. This is why the industry got in a little bit of trouble. Okay, 59% of all transactions did not have a buyer agency agreement. Okay, in Wisconsin, buyer agency is required in a transaction, which is why part of the environment we work in, we're very grateful for in terms of mitigating liability of what's going on. The reason why the industry is being challenged is because of a lack of transparency as to where your fiduciary lies. And I give REIB, DSPS, and WRA a lot of credit, is they established this being a mandated form, I think back in 2011, Chris?
Well, it's not 100% accurate though. It's not mandatory if the buyer chooses to sign that they understand they're a customer.
Correct.
So it's not 100% mandatory without it. And there have been plenty of ethics complaints that have gone to the local board
Yeah,
of buyers agents supposedly treating them as a client when they're not. That's where a lot of people get into trouble.
yeah, totally. And I think the point in buyer agency, and I hear it and see it, and I know you guys do this. People are very flippant over buyer agency and the relationship they have with buyer agency. And we have to get better at being more confident in delivering what buyer agency is and what its purpose is in the transaction. And Gary's message from the stage was get a value prop, create a service plan, and get the buyer agency agreement freaking signed. Okay? The other thing, and I'll just tell you, because I heard this on Saturday night when I was out to dinner with my wife and she got into a little bit of a direct dialogue with a client. The client got all into a hissy fit because the buyer agency agreement was 1 year. And Megan's response was, Tim, in the state of Wisconsin, this is an at-will state. You can leave the buyer agency as soon as you'd like, because if you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you. Tim signed it, boom, they got an accepted offer, it was great. But we have to be more transparent about what that is, and buyer agency helps predict your liability. Cool? All right. Next, what buyers want from their agent can be summarized into 3 things, and this is really important. 1, you got to educate them. 2, where we've gotten in trouble as an industry in terms of people questioning your value, is running around like a chicken with your head cut off, where you don't slow down enough for them to fully appreciate what you can do for them. And we have to change the way we talk about our service approach, because the business moves so fast, we move so fast, and our clients then, how many times have you had a client question what it is that you delivered from a value standpoint? I hear it. I had dinner with a friend last week. It was like, why are you making, why are your agents making this much on this transaction? They don't do anything. The commentary from Gary is slow down enough for them to fully appreciate what you can do for them. Okay? How buyers found their agents, 70% of the time, a buyer finds their agent via referral they previously utilized. Okay, that's 56%. They only found them 7% through a website and 7% through an online inquiry. People who avoid contact make less money. Make peace with making contact with people. Buyer interviews, here's what you need to know. 71% of the time, they only interviewed 1 person. 17% of the time, they interviewed 2 people. Okay? 88% of the time, it was 1 or 2 people. If you are 3 through 12, because the average consumer in Wisconsin knows 12 real estate agents, if you're 3 through 12, you don't matter. How you build market share is through how you build mind share. Okay? And you want to be first. And don't leave until you get the buyer agency signed. Because the likelihood of you getting them as a client goes down dramatically if they interview somebody else. Okay, most important factors for buyers: experience, trustworthiness, reputation, family, or friend. They want to know you have experience. Professionalism and knowledge matter, not numbers on a page. Okay, professionalism and experience matter. Not important. Timeliness, your ability to association with the company, active in the community. They want to know, are you professional and are you knowledgeable? Home is a financial investment in terms of how people view it. Couple things. Is it a good investment? 82% of consumers believe it's a good investment. And this is an important one for those of you that want to attract the 21 to 35 who wants to get into the business or get into home ownership. Home ownership, the average homeowner has 35 times more net worth than that of an average renter. It's forced savings. 35 times more. Repeat and referral, 90% of the time say that they would use you again. If they had stayed in contact, they would have better odds than Vegas, was exact Gary's quote from stage. Buyer and seller satisfaction, buyer satisfaction was 92%, seller satisfaction was 91%. And 70% were very satisfied on the seller side. So think about that, 70% of the time they're very satisfied, yet, I'll share, there's another stat that's coming up, only 26% of the time do people actually use them again. So we talked about how you segment your database, how you look at home anniversaries, how do you identify when people could be hot or heat seeking is dependent on if you know that information and how to target them. How sellers found their agent. Now we're gonna switch to sellers, okay? Sellers found their agent. Over the majority of the time, close to 60%, they were referred by a friend or neighbor, or they were used the agent previously to buy or sell a home, 26%. 72%, 70% were very satisfied, 91% were totally satisfied, yet 26% of the time they use them again. There's opportunity. Personal information and contact by telephone. 69% of how you find sellers is a communication game. Increase your intensity and frequency. Seller interviews, going back to either your first or your last. First, sellers interviewed agents 81% of the time they chose the first one they interviewed. 12% of the time they chose the second person they interviewed. 93% of the time they interviewed one or two people. If you're not first, you're last. You don't matter. If you want to build market share, you have to build mind share. And what sellers want from their agent? These 4 areas cover 88% of sellers' desires of their agent. Competitive pricing, marketing that attracts attention and drives the timeline, and fixes to maximize value. That's what sellers are looking for. Don't overthink it. Streamline your communication to those 4 items and you should be in good shape. And most important factors for sellers, guess what? Same thing that buyers are looking for. Reputation, honesty and trustworthiness, friend or family member, knowledge of the neighborhood. If I looked at this right here and I want to attract more sellers, the one thing I'd be doing is focusing on how am I building my systems to make sure that I'm getting anecdotal reviews of those that I have served and the stories that they have. And then how do you communicate your knowledge of the neighborhood so they view you as a trusted source? Because 85% say they would use their listing agent again. So lastly, and I only probably have 1 or 2 more slides and we'll wrap it up. The method they used to sell a home, 89% of all listing transactions last year utilized an agent. That should put confidence and wind in your sales as to your fiduciary responsibility and how you do it. FSBOs last year were only 7% of transactions, which was down 30% versus prior year. People are willing to pay for your value in a world of complexity. How do we know this? People are telling us because they utilized agents 89% of the time. So there you are. It was my part 2 of a 3-hour speech boiled into about 25, 30 minutes. Couple things for you. I would challenge you to take the material, download it from kwrealtymke.com and think about it from the lens and the standpoint of what is it that I'm doing now that I should stop? And what is it that I should be doing now that I should be starting? And what is it that I'm doing now that I need to rethink so that I can communicate more effectively in order to attract the business that I desire to attract? How you do that in a world that's going to get noisier will be incredibly important. Make sense? Cool. All of it's available to you. If you have questions on it, feel free to reach out. And my hope was just to plant a bunch of seeds in your brain as to how you operate and what you're doing to try and effectively change so that you're being most effective in the market at the moment. Cool? Sweet. Thanks guys for your patience.
I saw a lot of head nodding, so there's a lot of good information, a lot of people kind of agreeing and taking it in. Make sure that you adjust how you're talking to your people accordingly. If you have questions, come to the value thing and we can work on it. I'm gonna give it a little palate cleanser and then we're gonna let everything go. We had a great awards night the other night, right? Change of topic, stay with me, low whiplash. Great awards night, thank you, everybody. There was one person that we didn't have the chance to hear from. She's here today. She's gonna give 3 awards really quickly for us. And I kind of, Michelle Glenn is gonna do her awards for this office. So Michelle, woo! Yeah.
I just piggyback on something Charlie said, and I know I'm not an agent, but I mean, I have my real estate license since '05, so I kind of feel like I know, a little bit, right? So I was at an event this morning where somebody was given a tenure award for 35 years, and then she had to go up because she was in like the president's circle for a successful year. And they had a testimonial of how amazing she was and blah, blah, blah. She was the first house that she sold 35 years prior was the person who gave her a testimonial, who sold their house 35 years later and went back to her to sell that house. And so everyone's like, how did you do that? She's like, a lot of contact cards. So that is true. Like literally that happened where literally 35 years later, she sold them or listed their house that she sold them 35 years earlier. So just FYI. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's a contact sport, you guys.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Keep doing your thing.
Okay, so I am sorry I missed your awards. I was out of town and I was looking forward to that event. So Diana is very nice in letting me do this. But I want to say thank you for those that enrolled the warranty and used the HSA home warranty. We paid over $108,000 in claims for this office last year. And I wanted to say thank you to the top individual agent who sold the most closed warranties and the top team who sold the most closed warranties. We have a first-time winner. It's Nikki Couillard as the individual agent. And then Mind Right team really asked last year for HSA. So I have a really pretty crystal award for you guys for being the top warranty
Thank you.
heroes. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate you guys very much.
We love you.
We had to put a couple on our properties to, hit that, so.
But yes, half of them are on their investment properties, but I don't care, right? Okay, so with that being said, I have a new award that I've never done before, but you guys earned it. So this is an outstanding office award. You guys sold more warranties out of anyone in my entire territory. And I handled 90% of Wisconsin, every agent, every brokerage, and Northwest Illinois. So you don't know how much I appreciate you guys because you guys are tops. So I have this really nice crystal award for you guys. And I want to present this beautiful box. Beautiful box. Yes, that's what you get for.
Okay, that doesn't happen. That's you.
Yeah.
Because people work with, they love, trust, and respect.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, in my experience of working in the home warranty world, like, you're incredibly responsive. People have a ton of respect for you.
Yes.
And like, that happens because they love you, trust you, respect you.
100%. We love you, Michelle.
And she also sat through our whole meeting just to get these last 3 minutes, so.
Hey, whatever it takes.
That's right, that's why, okay. You guys, I'm gonna let you guys connect if there are any, we're over. Thank you guys for your patience and for diving in. Does anybody have 1 or 2 listings they want to highlight, or do you wanna, yes, Mark?
We have a condo going live on Thursday, 2-bedroom, 3-bath, 2 levels, got a huge deck on the back.
Yeah.
Price is $329.
Warranty.
Could be $349, we're still deciding, but.
Awesome. Where is it?
West Bend.
West Bend. How do I spend? How do I spend? Yes, yeah.
3,000 square foot, Altosa house, really unique Frank White style inspired construction, custom built, and we'd love to bring a buyer to it too.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. All right, if anyone else is just random things, Jay Kirkeberg, I hear him outside my office all the time saying another listing, so make sure you talk to Jay. What do you have?
Jonah Jean Greco, Minor Realty Group.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on, coming in higher. All right, Pilot Drive, Mequon, off market right now, 360. This is a 3-bedded, 2 full bath, approximately 2,000 square foot, 2-story home. We've got Larchmont Drive in Waukesha, off market right now at 440, 3-bed, 2 full bath, nearly 2,800 square feet. Debbie Lane, anyone looking in the Colgate area, off market right now, 435. This is a 3-bed, 3 full bath. Apparently 49,000 square feet. Typo. It's like, I think it's about 2,000 square feet. Still at my New Berlin off-market listing on South 124th Street, 3-bed, 2 full bath, off-market at 380.
What school district is that?
I believe New Berlin, let me double check.
It's 124th.
Yeah, it might be.
West Dallas, some of it's.
Well, actually, I'm pretty
Some of
sure,
it's,
everything right now just got I don't think there's any New Berlin properties that are gonna be in the West Dallas School District anymore. They
just seen one last week.
I'm saying they just passed, we're in the process of passing a new ordinance to reclassify those New Berlin properties in a New Berlin school district, but I will find out for sure.
So ones that are in Elm Grove district, or whatever, the Brookfield School District, those would be New Berlin and too?
Not sure, but we can chat more about it. I just got the inside scoop from one of my clients. Yeah. But those, that's what if you have any potential buyers for those, please let me know. All of those sellers are entertaining off-market offers from buyers if it is attractive.
Jake McBride.
I just put a flip on 8904 West Montana for 149.9. Needs work. It was a smoker's house. It's yellow. But
Even the outside.
There's property for everybody.
it went live an hour ago.
And there's a young man in the second row here, I'm not sure.
Yellow.
Giving Jeff a hard time. All right, you guys, if you have any other properties, buyers, sellers, make sure you connect. Let's go. Let's have an amazing year. Oh, and don't forget, Sam has a big goal. You can help Sam get there. Just buy the tour.
It's right here.
It's right here.
What's that?
Right here.
Running Colgate?
Hey.
It's 439.